and learn again, Lord. In this class, pray that you will guide the lips and the mouth of our teacher, that he will say only what you want him to say, so that we may learn know more about you and about what you are have prophesied in your word that will be fulfilled in the future. And thank you, Lord, for wisdom and the knowledge that will be given out this time. Bless those, bless each and every one, and especially by the Spirit, empower our teacher. Pray this in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Pasabi lang ha. If the connection cuts out, and I will try switching sa ibang connection. So, posible po yun if we are having trouble with how it's going. So I one or two comments. Salamat. Paki-comment sa chat. Please give me your name in the chat, please. And that way we know that you are present with us. Okay. So I want to comment today or discuss some today about the test. My only problem is when I took a look at it, di pa lahat natapos. So some of you have submitted the test, but some of you did not. Okay naman kung audit ka, no problem there. But of course, if you are not audit, then you should take the test already kasi lampas na. So you should have already completed the test before now. One or two comments here. If you are audit status, okay sa akin, if you want to go ahead and take the test, I won't necessarily grade it, but I think you could use, and that's the difference between audit and credit anyway. But you could use the test as an opportunity for review. So that's the purpose of a test, naman. The purpose of a test is to, it's really ultimately, educationally, it's to bring your mind back through things, to let you understand, wow, okay, akala ko, nagets ko na yun, but hindi pa pala, or something, okay? So, I mean, it's to show you the areas that you should study more. So that's kind of the purpose of that. Kahit audit ka, you are perfectly welcome to take the test. Okay sa akin yun. Just that I won't necessarily be able to grade it. Yun lang. Okay, one other thing to mention here is then, before I talk about the test, if you have not taken the test, I have to ask you to jump out of the class. So, because I'm going to discuss some of it here now. And so if you're watching this, and if you hear me, and you have not taken the test, but you're a credit student, don't stay on. You need to get off, okay? So, to stay on further, kasi we're going to discuss the test, it would not be honest. So you should jump off. And then what I would say to you, if that's you, you need to go take the test. Okay? So jump off, go take the test, and then after you finish it, you can come back here and listen to the recording. Okay? But do not continue on the video if you have not taken the test and if you are credit status. Okay? So let me give you a second. Make sure everyone who is credit status and has not taken the test is jumping off. Okay? Sanglit lang. Okay. So everyone that's watching me now should have already taken the test, just to confirm. Let me talk about a couple of things there. I'm not going to go into the details on the multiple choice questions because you already got an email back that told you whether you got it correct or whether you missed it. Some of these medyo nahihirapan ng konti. Kasi anyway, like if I'm looking down the chapter content questions, there were some of these where a number of us missed it. So, okay po naman yun. That's all right. But in other places, I mean, some of these questions, 100%. So that's great. Good for you. Good work for you there. Those of you that did that. On others, maybe you are just missing a detail kasi the way I set up those chapter content questions.
Sir,
Apo,
pwedeng masagutan pa rin yung exam kahit na late siya. Pero di ka
Apo. Pero ano, credit ka ba?
credit po.
So you should jump off. You shouldn't.
Okay.
You should not still be listening. Dapat umalis.
Umalis ako kanina. Balik lang po para itanong po. Salamat po.
Okay, great. So on some of these chapter content questions, maybe you just forgot one chapter. So I asked you some of these. Every chapter that mentions ganon. Okay, well, maybe you remembered three. Next time. Actually, what I wanted to do for our time here today, because you already saw that, you already saw your answers or kung ano ang tama. I would encourage you go through and look at the email reply and just see where you missed it, and so you just understand para next time lang. But what I'm going to do today is to spend a little time with you about the last question, and that was the essay question. And I'm going to do our thing that we did before with choosing a student. I'll just call on a random student. But when I call on you, I would like you to answer the question where we see Christ in the book of Daniel. Okay, so if you're calling early, you're one of the earlier ones, you can give any of the chapters. The further we go, baka mas challenging na. But let me just call on the first person here that we have, and I would like to see Brother James, parang paborito ka ng random script ko. Brother James, the question for you here, where in the book of Daniel do I see Jesus? Or where do I see a revelation? Ay, wala siya. Ay, nakita ko siya kanina. Parang umalis na siya. Okay, we'll try one more again. Where do I see in the book of Daniel any kind of picture of Christ or revelation of Christ? Or where do I see the book of Daniel talking about Christ? So I'm just checking the next person. Wala din po siya. Okay. Brother Zeke, where would you give me one of the chapters or any of the chapters, any place in the book of Daniel where I see a revelation of Jesus?
One of the earliest chapters was in chapter 3 when the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. It says chapter 3 of verse 25.
Great. Okay. Expound on that a little bit. Ano pong significance dyan? If you were going to have some kind of sense of, just explain or fill out that idea a little further for us. What else? Ano pa pong pwedeng sabihin patungkol dyan? Any other things you would add to that?
I would say that is one of the places where we see the revelation of Jesus Christ, because in the chapter, the topic of the chapter is, or the essence of the chapter is when Nebuchadnezzar challenged the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he said that who is that God that delivered you guys out of my hand? And so he's challenging, in that way, he's challenging the God of the one true God. And God answered that question of the king of Nebuchadnezzar by appearing in the form of Jesus Christ, the Son. And in that way, when one of the one of the ways that the king Nebuchadnezzar showed his powers through the fiery furnace, throwing the three in there means that he has power over their bodies and he could kill them. But when Jesus Christ appeared in the form of a man, walking with the three in the fire, showed to the king that the God of the three is much more powerful and all-powerful than any form of power the king Nebuchadnezzar could show or could throw at the God. Okay.
Great. Okay, maybe I'll just toss in a couple of things to add to your ideas there. Good ideas there. One or two. The specific thing that Nebuchadnezzar says back here, I see 4 men. The form of the fourth is like a son of God, or like the son of God. I would not read that as necessarily Nebuchadnezzar understands like the whole son of God language that we get in the New Testament. I think what he means by this is just, kasi technically, pwede din translate it as a son of the gods. Pwede din son of God. Okay, but anyway, the point of it, because later on, you have Nebuchadnezzar talking about his gods. So anyway, yun. I don't necessarily see Nebuchadnezzar understanding the New Testament idea of the Son of God, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. The idiom, the expression, is God. And he's seeing a person in the flame, and he's thinking, this is a person who's like God. Parang ganon ang isip niya. One other comment I'll just make down here. He comments a little bit later in verse 28, the God who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him. Again, my answer here, if someone says, well, then how can it be Jesus? Because later, tawag angel. Okay. Well, I mean, my basic answer there would be, I'm not necessarily looking at this and understanding that Nebuchadnezzar is a theologian. Unbeliever pa rin siya. Okay, so because he calls it an angel, that's Nebuchadnezzar saying, dahil siya naman ang nagsasabi, di natin alam. Hindi tayo sigurado what he's thinking. Okay. So in a way, we're looking at Nebuchadnezzar's words and we're putting it through the lens. He's an unbeliever. Does he understand what's going on? No. Part of the evidence for arguing that this could be an appearance of Jesus, this is kind of interesting, Hebrews 11, talks about they quenched the violence of fire. You can go throughout the Old Testament, but anyway, so alam ko, this is the best example or the clearest example of people quenching the violence of fire or surviving in fire. And I think this is probably a reflection back to that. It puts kind of an interesting framework around it. Okay. In any case, can I prove that Daniel chapter 3 is an appearance of Christ? No. But I think it's a fair enough possibility. Okay. So I would not preach for sure this is Christ, but it's a possibility. It's a good possibility. And the only other thing I'll toss in here, it's just interesting that God does not necessarily always deliver us from the fire, but he goes with us through the fire. I think that's a relevant point. So we're not always saved from the suffering. Pero may kasama naman. May kasama naman tayo. Siya naman kasama natin. So that fits into that kind of framework. Great. Okay, let me choose another person here. Ma'am Lila, if you are able, what other passage, let's just give another passage, kahit saan sa Book of Daniel. Ma'am Lila, a revelation of Jesus or an appearance of Jesus Christ in the Book of Daniel?
It is in 7, verse 13 and 14. I saw in the night, in the visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient Days, and they brought him near before him. And it is also in chapter 14, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him to dominion in an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and this kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. You hear me?
Great. Apo. May patunayan ba tayo na ito ay si Jesus?
Yes.
Ay,
Yes.
okay, paano pong sabihin? Or ano pa pong patunayan na ito talaga si Jesus?
As far as I'm concerned, it is in Revelation 1:13.
Okay. Meron pa po ba?
It is also stated in Daniel 2:44
Okay.
and verse 45.
Sige. Babalik po tayo dyan. Great. Good answer. Excellent. Anyone else want to give some feedback there? Do we have any other proof? Kahit sino, pwede na. Any other proof in the Bible na ito talaga si Jesus? Or kung sasabihin ng iba na hindi naman Jesus ito. Iba naman ito. How would you say that this is really truly Jesus? Or parang patunayan talaga? Anyone want to give a proof that this is Jesus? Good answer. Thank you, Ma'am Lila.
Sir, sa Acts 7:56 po.
Okay, sige.
Yung pong word, the clouds of heaven, and said, behold, I see the heavens opened, the Son of Man standing on the right hand of God. And that talks about Jesus Christ po.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Excellent answer. Meron pa po ba iba? Anyone else have another answer you want to give? That's a great answer. And may mga iba ganon. Anyone else wants to share one?
Sir, yung sa New Testament are filled with Jesus claiming himself, referring himself the title, the Son of Man. I think that's one of his favorite title of himself.
Excellent. Very good. I'm just going to show you quickly here. But yes, I mean, if you just start going through, we can make it small. But you just see how much Son of Man is used. I mean, what? That's just the end of Mark palang. Okay? I mean, okay, there's the beginning of Luke. Ang dami naman. It's constant. Okay? If I go all the way up to the last place in where it's used here, it's Revelation. In the midst of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. Okay? And one more time, upon the clouds set one like unto the Son of Man. So, this was Jesus' favorite title for himself, all over the place. Maybe one or two other things we could put in there that are kind of like this category. Just the fact that it says that that it was the Son of Man, and yet at the same time, he receives all authority and power. Okay? How can a person be human and also receive the rights and authority as God? How does that happen? One more passage that's like this, it's sort of like the Acts passage that Brother Rousseau gave. Hereafter shall ye see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power coming in the clouds of heaven. I mean, it's sobrang obvious naman talaga, because you even have the coming in the clouds of heaven, right hand of power, Son of Man. Okay, well, that's Jesus speaking to the high priest in answer to the question of whether he is Christ, the Messiah, the Son of God. Ang sagot niya, yes, you will see the Son of Man sitting on the right hand of power. And then when you go forward to the passage we saw earlier in Acts, siya yun, he is the one sitting on the right hand of power. Okay, so maybe one or two comments here about the significance. I mean, the significance is huge, but just it's the significance of realizing Jesus deserves authority over the world. He is the king of planet Earth. Sa kanya lahat. Okay, and it's beautiful. Jesus receives authority and power and rights. Sa kanya talaga the authority, yung karapatan, to rule over planet Earth. Okay. Now, if you keep on going in Daniel chapter 7, we said that you also see the saints or the people in Daniel 7, the people of the Most High. You see these people, and they also are ruling. And so one of the questions you could ask, or that we discussed in the lecture, was, how is it that Jesus has the rights over everything, ganita? And then I get down here to these verses, and I discover that actually the saints of the Most High have a rule. And our answer there, when we discussed that before, dahil kay Jesus, we also will reign together with him. Okay, so we go from Jesus' reign and authority to the fact that we will reign together with him. He will share his reign. It's a beautiful, beautiful passage. Love that passage. One of my favorite passages as you read the Old Testament. And I would definitely say my favorite passage in the book of Daniel. Great. Okay, excellent answers there. Let me just look here. Okay, isa pa po. And let's see. Brother, okay, wala po siya. So, sanglit lang. Okay, Brother Dinry Paul, can you give us another passage like this? Anything in the book of Daniel that is a vision or a revelation of Jesus Christ?
Pili na po kanina yung chapter 7, verse 13 to 14. Pero meron po akong supporting verse po dyan, yung sa Mark chapter 13, verse 26 po. When the Lord Jesus Christ was asked by the high priest, "Who are you?" And sagot po ni Jesu Cristo po, "And then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power." So yun po yung isang bagay na parang andyan po, marvelous po. Papakita po talaga na si Jesus is the Son of Man na pinopresiya ni Daniel po, chapter 7.
Great. That's good. Sigurado ka ba? Wala ka bang ibang examples sa book of Daniel? There are several others.
Yes po. Sa chapter 12 verse 1, and parang Christophany po siya, na yung si Michael po is described as Jesus Christ.
Okay. Close lang. Let me just I'll just go back there. Let's look at it. I would not understand this as this is not Jesus. Hindi po siya. When it's referring to Michael, it just means Michael. Yun lang. And I can know this because if I start looking, like, if I just search for Michael, well, iba po yun. But like you have places like this, Revelation 12, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. Here in Jude, Michael, here it's very obvious, Michael the archangel. Okay. You don't want to confuse Michael with Jesus. Okay, actually, okay naman medyo. Anyway, well, baka hindi. But this is what the Jehovah's Witnesses teach. So you don't want to confuse Michael with Jesus. Iba naman talaga. So what they're saying is Jesus was an angel. Tapos naging Son of God na siya. But dati angel siya. Okay, parang ganun. So I don't want to go there. Okay, but you are on the right track with this. And this is the part of it that when you said Daniel 12, it's like, ayun. Because if you go a little bit further in Daniel 12, you do see this revelation or this picture, the man clothed with linen. I didn't get into this in the lecture. Parang hindi siya kasama sa lecture, just because we ran out of time. But like verse 7, here's the man clothed in linen, and he held up his right hand, and he said some things. Okay, well, this man in linen is different from the other two. So you have here's the other two, and on the other side, there's this other person, and one said to the man in the linen, "How will it be?" And the man clothed in linen held up his right hand and made this confession, or this kind of parang swear, parang, what do you say? Well, like swearing in a court, but parang oath, parang ganun. If you're going back to Daniel chapter 10, and this is the same vision back in Daniel chapter 10, you have a contrast between the one angel and the other angels. Do you remember that? And in Daniel chapter 10, I argued, again, di sobrang obvious, but I argued in chapter 10, here's that certain man clothed in linen. Okay, so it's the same description. But the rest of the description that follows in verse 6 and on, look at this description. His body was like beryl, his loins girded with fine gold of Uphaz, His face is the appearance of lightning, his eyes as lamps of fire, his arms and his feet like polished brass, the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. And if you do that, we did this in the study guide, and you compare that to Revelation 1. Sino ito? And my argument is, this is walang iba, but Jesus himself. Okay? Because in Revelation 1, very clear description dito, very clear description din. Now, the struggle that you have is you keep on reading in Daniel chapter 10, and it sounds like this is just an angel, all right? Because he says, I was left alone, and then a hand touched me. And as he goes on to describe it, this is an angel because he says, the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me. So this is parang angel lang siya. And my argument was, no, pay attention closely. This one up here is different from the one down here. This one up here, he speaks, and when he speaks, Daniel says, there remained no strength in me. I heard the voice of his words, and then I was in deep sleep on my face and my face toward the ground. Okay? Parang di niya kayang marinig. So, Daniel hears words, it almost like destroys him. That is a matinding glory of this person. Okay? But when the other angel comes and speaks to him and says, stand up, stand on your feet, ganun, ganun, parang kaya niya. Kaya na. Okay? And the impression I get is, from verse 10 on, is a different angel. Hindi naman sobrang malinaw talaga. But I think there's an argument to say, verse 10 on, different angel na siya. But up here, I'm actually looking at an appearance of Jesus. And who is that person up here? Well, you see it up here. This is the man clothed in linen. If I go back to chapter 12, here we can just do it this way. If I go back to chapter 12, then I get the same thing in chapter 12, the man clothed in linen. And this man clothed in linen is somehow separate from the other angels. He somehow has greater authority than the other angels. Okay. So anyway, putting all of that together, tama naman ang sabi mo, in chapter 12, I do have a vision of Jesus. There is a vision of Jesus. I do not understand, maiba siya to Michael. Okay, iba naman yun. And you definitely want to know that. You don't, because that will come up in a discussion with Jehovah's Witness. Sasabihin nila, Michael, si Jesus, same po yun. But their purpose in saying that is dahil ang gusto nila, dati angel lang siya. They're going to say that he used to be an angel, and then he became the Son of God. Mali. Jesus has never been an angel. Okay, by the way, angel of the Lord. Angel of the Lord refers to Jesus. Okay, that does not mean he dating angel siya. What it means is he was the messenger and is the messenger of the Lord, but not angel like, angel Gabriel, angel. Okay, he's never been an angel. He has always been God. Angels are just creatures. Nilikha ng Panginoon lang sila. Okay. So very important to have that distinction. Good. I'm glad we talked about that, and very good answer. Thank you. All right. I'm going to do one more, and kahit saan, if you have an answer here, who is Jesus, or where do I see Jesus in the book of Daniel? Brother Samuel, where do you see, as you're studying, where do you see an appearance of Jesus Christ in the book of Daniel?
Um, verse 7, sir. Verse 13 to 14. Here, there I can see Jesus, and also chapter 10, verse 5 and 6. Which in the Revelation 1 verse 12, we can see just like that, which is described in Daniel 10 verse 5 and 6.
Okay, good. Those are some of the passages we were able to look at earlier, but good. Particularly the connection between chapter 10 and chapter Revelation 1. Anyone else? And I'll just open it up to anyone. Any other passages that we did not talk about in the book of Daniel? There's a really big one that we should have gotten. Anyone want to share one?
Sure. Daniel chapter 9.
I'll try, sir. Yes.
Sabay. Great. Excellent.
Chapter 9, 24 to 26.
Yan. Okay, let's just look at that quickly, and then I'll show you one other passage it's not as obvious, naman. But this one, this is like, if this is Daniel 7, that's a really big, I mean, even in the whole Old Testament, it's a really big Messiah passage. It's a really significant passage. So buong Old Testament, I mean, I don't know, it's definitely top 10, maybe top 5 of the passages that are looking ahead to the Messiah. Okay, Daniel chapter 9 is like next. Daniel chapter 9, 24 to 27 is also in that top 10 group. And here's why. Here's what's so amazing about it. Verse 25. Therefore, know and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince. So it's Messiah. I mean, you realize this word Messiah, same word as New Testament Christ. Okay, so I mean, you could almost like translate it Christ. Christ is Greek. Yun lang. Okay, so it's, Messiah, Christ, same word, dalawang lingwahe lang. Okay, so it's like saying language versus lingwahe. It's the same word. Okay, it's just two different languages. Christ in Greek, Messiah in Hebrew, same word. So you would not be wrong to translate something like, from the time going to restore, build Jerusalem until Christ, the Prince. You realize how really incredible that is. Okay, and then you get down a little bit later, verse 26. After this period of time, the Messiah will be cut off. I mean, what you've got here is the Messiah will be killed. So I've got a passage here that's referring to the Messiah. It's telling me that he is the king. He's the prince, Messiah the Prince. He's the king. He is also going to be killed. And it's giving me the time when he will come. It's telling us, I mean, because we did this now, where you can add up all of the years and you can say, this is when he would come. So you can say, this is the Christ, the Messiah. He's the Prince. He will die. He will come at this time. That's incredible. Okay, it's all here. Meron pa. Because if you go back a little bit further in the passage, a little bit earlier in the passage, what was the purpose of all that? And here's this set of expressions we talked about. The purpose is to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, to anoint the most holy. Which, if I was just going to summarize that, a beautiful expression of salvation. The Messiah will come. He is the Prince. He is the King. He will die. And the result of that is he will pay for our sins and bring in righteousness and create an eternal relationship with God so that we are in the presence of God. Okay? I mean, it's here in the book of Daniel, the whole picture and vision of the purpose of Christ's coming. Kahit kailan, even down to when, all the way to his timing, all the way to the timing when he comes. Okay. So it's an amazing passage. And again, a very significant piece of the Old Testament, or Daniel, the Old Testament revelation about Jesus. Okay, just to finish up our time so that we can close out, let's just look at two things really quick here. I'll go back to Daniel chapter 4. And let's see. How about we'll do this? Lowly and Daniel 4. Oh, okay, try again. Humble. One more. There we go. So there's an interesting, here it is. Okay, verse 17. That the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, giveth it to whomsoever he will, setteth up over it the basest of men, Basist, for one thing, we don't use the word basist a lot. And for another thing, basist sounds like bad. A base person is not a good person. Let's try. I'm just going to put this in one of the modern translations, and let's see what we get in verse 17. He gives it, rules the kingdom of men. He gives it to whom he will, sets over it the lowliest of men. And once you do that, I think you get the idea. Now, again, hindi sobrang obvious. But one of my arguments or understandings of this idea, this passage, and I'm getting this from my friend Brian Collins, if you remember him coming. One of the ideas I think of this is that God's plan is to set over the world a person who does not exalt himself, a person who chose to humble himself. Okay, and there's a pattern that goes out here. Do you know Jesus' statement? The Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, to serve, to give himself a ransom for many. Jesus teaches that those who humble themselves will be exalted. And the ones who exalt themselves will not be, they will be abased. Okay? And if you go ahead, Jesus Christ is Lord above all because he humbled himself. So because he humbled himself and accepted death, God also has exalted him. Okay? So anyway, we could spend more time building that idea out. But I think part of the beautiful thing about this in Daniel chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar exalts himself. God says, no, you will be abased. God says, my plan is to exalt those who humble themselves. Philippians chapter 2, Jesus humbled himself, humbled himself, humbled himself, humbled himself. Therefore, God has highly exalted him, given him a name that is above every name. God sets over the earth the humblest of men, the one who was willing to humble himself the most in the entire history of the world. Okay, that was one. And then the other one that was, you already mentioned, in Daniel chapter 2, you have this just kind of passing reference that's really fascinating. And that is to this stone. The stone was cut out. The stone smote the image. It became a great mountain. It filled the whole earth. Well, if you keep on going from there, you see that this was a stone that was cut out of the mountains without hands. I mean, that's just kind of interesting. And so you're maybe trying to figure out what that refers to and that kind of thing. I won't build this idea out anymore just because of time, except just to show you this. It's a study I worked on, and I will put it in the chat if you want it. But it is thinking through all of the places in the New Testament and Old Testament where you see Jesus as the stone. Okay, and you can just go through these. I mean, here are these Old Testament passages that do it. He is the stone, he's the cornerstone, he's the stone that the builders rejected. Okay, Sorry, nalobat ng computer ko. So anyway, dita, I'll just finish out this thought here. When you put those passages together, you come away with I think, a pretty good argument that this is referring to Jesus. So what is the rock? Who is the rock? Those kinds of questions. My answer to that is Jesus is the rock. And if you're interested in that, or if you want to explore it, I just gave you the link to it, so you can look at that information online. The basic framework we were saying is, who is the rock? God is our rock. But if you keep on building that idea out, you discover the rock, the ultimate rock, yung talagang rock, is walang iba kundi si Jesus. Jesus is the rock. And from there, we go to recognize that he gives blessings to all who put their trust in him. Okay, yun lang. So I hope as you think about Revelation, or excuse me, Daniel, that can be a blessing just to see how much and how often we're seeing Jesus Christ in this book. It's constant naman. It's all over the place in the book of Daniel, and it's beautiful. I will let us go. One other passing comment before we finish here, just encouragement, and I can mention this again next week. If you're struggling to keep up dahil sobrang daming oras in the study guides and that kind of thing, just remember my encouragement before. Don't let it go past excessive amounts of time. Okay, my encouragement, each study guide nasa 30 minutes lang. And okay naman talaga sa akin if you did not finish everything. Basta you spend a good 30 minutes with each study guide, okay na yun. Okay na yun. I don't want you to spend like an hour or something on each study guide. Sobra yun. Okay? I want you to enjoy it. I don't want it to be too much. So about a half hour per study guide. Okay na. Do your best lang. Okay? And then use them in your devotions. That's what I would do if I was taking this class. Okay? So parts of devotions mo yan. And just as you're doing your devotions, you're enjoying reading, learning, understanding the text, but then you're able to also finish your schoolwork. Okay? I would encourage you to think that way. Unless you have something else you are required to do, or something you're doing already, you want to be with that. But okay naman sa akin talaga if this is your devotions. Okay, yun lang. If you have one or two questions, I will close the class and we can chat for a few minutes here. Other questions. Otherwise, tapos na po tayo. And next week we will start into the book of Revelation, and I look forward to studying that with you. Okay, salamat. Thank you, po.
Salamat, Dr. Arnold. Thank you po.
Salamat din po.
Thank you po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you po.
Leave na tayo.
Sige.